So, are there any good guys in this movie? Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about a medieval movie from 1985 that teenage Geno in the 90s watched because he had a crush on Jennifer Jason Leigh and would watch anything she was in at the time. Uh, but older Geno that sits before you wanted to go back and watch this and see if I really remembered it being a really good movie, because I remember in my mind thinking this was a good movie, so I had to revisit it. Today we're going to be talking about 1985's Flesh and Blood, starring Rutger Hauer and Jennifer Jason Leigh. What this movie is about, it's 1501, and an army is helping someone take back their castle, and they promise this army that they can assault and pillage all the rich people for 24 hours and keep whatever they get if they take back the castle. So they do take back the castle. Then the person that had hired them tells their boss, screw them over, send them away, make them give back all their riches, or we're not going to have anything left. And the reason that this guy agrees to it is because during the battle, there was a sniper in the window, and he went up and stabbed the sniper who was behind a curtain, but it turned out to be a young nun, and he felt like he sinned and wanted to save her. So the person that hired his army says, well, you can either help her or help them. So he chooses her, and she ends up kind of becoming... I don't know if they really are in a relationship or if she becomes like his de facto daughter. It really never explains that. So they run the guys off, and they decide after... Okay, you have the main... There's a lot here, so bear with me. Rutger Hauer is kind of the de facto leader of this army after the guy that betrayed them. And he technically he has impregnated one of this girl in the group. But apparently a lot of the guys are with her, so she says it's his baby. But she has the baby, but the baby is stillborn. So when they go to bury the baby, they dig a hole, but they find a statue of Saint Martin, which they see it as a sign because Rutger Hauer's character is named Martin, and they think it's a sign. And the cardinal that's with him, played by Ronald Lacey, who was taught in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he says it's a sign. It's a sign that Martin is going to lead us to riches, and Martin is then going to share with everyone. So they decide, well, we're going to get back at this guy that betrayed us. But so then before we had met Stephen, that is the son of the guy who owned the castle, he's a scientist, and he doesn't need anything else in his life, including love, until he meets Agnes, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. He is going to... He's been betrothed, has been set up to marry her. So they end up meeting, and at first he's just like, I don't need girls, I need science. And she's just like, well, I'm Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I'm really cute, and you're going to love me. And sure enough, he ends up loving her. But then their little caravan gets attacked by Rutger Hauer and his men. And they take everything, including Agnes. So they kidnap Agnes. They don't find out she's there till later. But then they have all these riches, and they're very happy. But then they get another quote-unquote sign from St. Martin that says they're destined to follow the sign. There's like, we need to follow where he's pointing. And so that makes him end up at a castle. And by the way, just keep in mind, because I don't want to say it multiple times, a lot of the characters that are in Rutger Hauer's character's group are very rapey. I mean, there's just no easier way to say it. They're. I just don't want to have to say that multiple times, but let's just say it happens, and it happens a lot. There's one character, played by John Dennis Johnson, named Summer, and he's trying to assault Agnes, Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, like through the majority of the movie. But Rutger Hauer, he says, well, we're going to share everything, but then he caused a fire which stopped them from assaulting her, and because he kind of just wants her for himself. But anyway, they end up at this castle. Meanwhile, Steven tracks down the former captain of their group, and they are going to go after him, and then you have a whole thing at the castle involving them trying to get her back. I just really can't really say too much more. So this movie, I still thought it was a decent movie. I don't know if it was as good. Look, I'm not the young, inexperienced guy I used to be. So movies like this, they just don't quote unquote do it for me anymore. I value story over substance but when you're a teenager, you think of other things, you know what I mean? So really a lot of the stuff in this, in some ways, it didn't really even fit the story very well for me. You have this character, Agnes, who you can't tell if she's pretending or not. And really, the movie tries to make it clear that, if she's pretending or not to to really want this Martin guy, or is she holding off for Steven? Well, we're going to talk some spoilers. She does hold off for him. She has to do creative things to keep him alive at times, but without giving up her ruse of being with Martin. She tells Martin, "I only want it to be you that's with me," because she had never been with anyone before, so she has to keep up this ruse, but seems to be enjoying said ruse. So you may have a bit of Stockholm syndrome here. I mean, they even comment. He's like, "Oh, you like this Steven guy, huh?" And she's like, "I was with him like 30 minutes," and she's not wrong. She wasn't with him very long. She was with Martin longer, but she compares the two, and it's almost like, because there's times where she wants to warn Martin of trouble and things she knows, and it's just parts of the plot. And it's just hard to tell, really, really who she wants, or in some way she wants them both. And I mentioned at the beginning, are there any good guys in this? Really, they set up Martin and his group at first to be the heroes of this story, but their group aren't the nicest of people. I mean, they do terrible things when they take over this castle, and they do terrible things all throughout this movie. I mean, again, that's some things I don't want to mention again, and it's just, they're not good people, but you can't really consider the guy running the castle to be a good person. The captain, even though he betrayed them, him and Steven are probably your de facto good guys in this. But really, I mean, the captain, Hawkwood is his name, played by Jack Thompson. He sold out this whole group. Steven, he's probably your best quote unquote good guy, because really he just wanted to be himself and he fell in love. But then, there's scenes again where you can't tell if Agnes, Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, you can't tell if, where she's going to go. And that, it does make it somewhat interesting, but I don't know. it just I think I wanted uh, a definitive character trait there for her. Which one's she gonna go with, and because even at the very end, you don't know, and that's a bit of a spoiler. Even though she goes with one of them, you still don't know if she really wants to be with that one or wants to be with both. Um, but one thing I did like though is in Rutger Hauer's group, you could tell there was some infighting. The woman who had the stillborn baby, she's jealous of the Agnes character because Agnes is getting all the attention of Martin and she wants Martin. The Summer character, again, wants to have his way with Agnes. I mean, there's all sorts of infighting and things, and this whole thing of we're going to share everything and be the same really falls by the wayside because Martin, in a way, Agnes is in his ear and kind of gets her way because she's giving him what he wants. And then so the infighting works, and you kind of know what's going to be their eventual downfall. When it comes to the title, there's plenty of flesh in this movie. I wouldn't say the movie is ultra bloody. I mean, there is some action. A lot of the action, I'm not going to call it cartoony, but I mean, it's not like this incredible like sword fighting action or anything. I mean, it's there, but it's pretty. I'd say it's almost tame. I mean, there's lots of killing. Don't get me wrong, and there are a few scenes that are kind of bloody, but it's not like fantastic action. But again, there's lots of flesh. They'll just leave it at that. Lots of flesh in this movie. It is. I do like that. There is a Blade Runner reunion in this. Rutger Hauer, of course, and Brian James. The Wake Up, It's Time to Die character. They're in the same group, so it's kind of nice to see them two together. When it comes to the movie as a whole, it didn't do as much for me watching it now than it did for me as a young teenager that was looking for. I mean, let's be honest. As teenagers, we watched movies to see certain things, and of course, that's why I was probably watching. I mean, I like medieval stuff anyway, but this movie. I mean, it's. I don't know. The storytelling, it's a little long, and the storytelling's okay. They also bring in, like, the Black Plague, and so they have to deal with that, and it actually does become a major factor in the movie. But they also technically cure the Black Plague, so there is that. But altogether, though, I don't know. The movie, it's still decent. But it wasn't as good as I remember because, again, when you're a teenager, you're watching movies like this for different reasons. But as a quote-unquote mature adult, the storytelling itself, I mean, I did like some of the characters. I did like some of the story arcs, but it didn't all really come together for me anymore. And it wasn't as good as I remembered. Still not a terrible movie, but you know what? Unless you find it free somewhere, I wouldn't really recommend it. Rutger Hauer, of course, I really like him. I like Brian James. So seeing them in this was great. And again, I still like Jennifer Jason Leigh. I mean, she's still a fantastic actress, and she's pretty good in this. But the movie as a whole itself is just okay, and unless it's free somewhere, I wouldn't really recommend checking it out. But anyway, that's all for this review. See you later.